All right, today we're going to talk about something that can totally change how you look at your work, your projects, honestly, even how you learn. We're diving into this idea of the alchemical turn, basically, how to transform what we all call failure into pure, valuable insight. So let's just start with a question that, let's be real, we've all faced. You put in the planning, you do the work, you launch your big idea, but then what happens if your brilliant intervention just falls flat? It's a tough moment for sure. But what if that's not actually the end of the story?
Yeah, that sinking feeling. It has a name. We can call it the failure fallacy. It's that super frustrating, kind of demoralizing feeling that you've just hit a brick wall and there's nowhere else to go. We've all been there.
And look, this is really the heart of the problem, isn't it? We're so often taught to see a result we didn't expect as a dead end, a complete stop sign. It just kills creativity, it shuts down new ideas, and it basically tells you, well, that journey's over. But that's just one way of looking at it. This is where we introduce something called the alchemical turn. It's this incredibly powerful mindset shift that comes from the world of action research. And it's all about completely flipping the script on what a so-called failed result really is. And here is the shift, right here. The old traditional view says a failed result is an endpoint. It's game over. But the alchemical turn, the action research view, it sees that exact same result as a data point. Think about that. It's not a stop sign, it's a piece of information, a clue that's pointing you somewhere new. The whole philosophy can be summed up with this powerful quote. In action research, there is no failure, only the start of the next loop. See, this moves us away from thinking of progress as a straight line that can just end, and instead puts us into a continuous cycle of learning. Okay, so that sounds great in theory, right? But how do we actually do this? How do you take a setback and literally use it as fuel for whatever comes next? Well, it's all about creating a very deliberate cycle of insight. And here's the thing, it's not automatic. You don't just trip and fall into insight after a setback. The magic that transforms a failed result into useful data, it's all powered by one crucial, very deliberate action. And that action is critical reflection. This is the engine of the entire process. It's not about just saying, oh, that didn't work. No. It's the disciplined process of really digging in and asking, why? Why did this falter? What can we learn from this to build the next version even better? Let's just walk through the cycle. First, your intervention doesn't go as planned. It falters. But instead of stopping, you move to step 2. You engage in that critical reflection. Then, from that reflection, a new insight pops up. And finally, and this is key, that new insight directly informs what you do next. That's the flow, from setback to actual progress. And what's so cool is that it's not just a loop that repeats itself. It's a spiral. Every time you go through this cycle of reflection and trying again, you're not back where you started. You're at a higher level, you're smarter, and you're evolving upward. So, here's the bottom line. This whole mindset isn't just some abstract theory for researchers. It's a real, practical tool. It's a launchpad for your own insight. And you can start using it like today. So let's just quickly recap the big takeaways here. First, a failed result is actually essential data. Second, it's super valuable because it shows you exactly what not to do. Third, that new knowledge becomes the foundation for a much better version. And most importantly, always remember, it is not an endpoint, it's a launchpad. You know, if you take away just one thing from all of this, please let it be this powerful little equation. Failed interventions do not equal failure. Failed interventions equal new insight. That simple shift really does change everything. And so that just leaves us with one last question for you to think about. When you look at your own work, your projects, the things you're trying to learn, what failure is just sitting there, waiting for you to transform it into your next great insight?